Meaning stimulates the will, fills one with a desire to reach out to new horizons. When a man in love sees the girl approaching, his heart leaps. When I hear a phrase of music that means something to me, my heart leaps. That leap is vitality from my depths, leaping up to meet the meaning. And the more meaning I perceive, the more vitality rushes up to meet it. As his access to the world of meaning increases, man's vitality will increase toward the Superman level. That much seems clear. Boredom cripples the will. Meaning stimulates it. The peak experience is a sudden surge of meaning. This is Colin Wilson in his book, The New Pathways of Psychology, Maslow and the Post-Freudian Revolution. Let's talk about what this quote or passage is about. What are we talking about here? We are talking about the fact that life could be more. Further, we are making a statement that life actually is more. More than what? Life could be more than what it is for most of people in most of their moments of awareness. And then people like Colin Wilson, Abraham Maslow, and I'm joining their revolution, we are making a statement that life is more than what we are usually perceiving in our everyday life. You heard the term peak experience at the end of this quote. For those of you who are not new to my channel, you've heard me talk about the peak experience, this concept from Abraham Maslow's works. A sudden surge of joy, meaning almost a mystical experience that gives one a peek into the higher nature of human existence. It gives one a peek into what life could be, but also what that specific person could be. Because the peak experience brings us into the core of the highest values, meaning, beauty, truth. And then we add other ones like playfulness, creativity. In some cases, it's justice or something else that might be relevant to you in that specific moment. Peak experience is similar to the flow state. And some people, including even Colin Wilson, don't make a great distinction between the two. But if we look really closely at the work of Abraham Maslow and his analysis and explanations of the peak experience, and then we look at Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the great psychologist who wrote the book Flow and was the first one to study flow and bring that concept to the general public. If we compare their work, we will see slight difference at least. I would say significant difference, where the flow state can be reached in less significant moments, which might be its advantage, and where flow state requires some structure, because we will have to remember that the flow state requires balance between skills and challenge. And also, the activity should be providing us with immediate feedback. The great example, or the most common example made by Csikszentmihalyi, is rock climbing. You're receiving immediate feedback. Every single step or hand placement that you make gives you feedback, whether you're doing well or not. So the flow state does require some structure. The peak experience is less demanding in terms of structure prepared in advance for whatever the activity is. The peak experience seems to be more spontaneous. But where these two experiences overlap is that nothing of these petty worries of daily human life seems to be able to survive in the flow state or the peak experience, meaning you cannot judge yourself and you cannot be concerned with the argument that you had yesterday or 5 years ago, and you cannot be concerned with that weird interaction you had with your colleague where you're not sure if you sounded competent or cool or you sounded lame and ignorant. you cannot worry about the future. You cannot be anxious about the future in both the flow state and the peak experience. But the interesting thing here, why I'm sharing this with you once again, the story of the peak experience, but this time in a slightly different context, the interesting thing is that people like Colin Wilson, the great British writer and philosopher, like Abraham Maslow, considered the peak experience, and we could also add the flow state, to be pointing us to the true human nature. And here is a great example. Consider your lowest moments. The world of literature, movies, music, poetry, as well as philosophy, is full of descriptions of those moments. It is so full, the world of human written word and spoken word and different kinds of media. It is so full that we start to believe that this might be the core or the essence or the truth of human existence. The 20th century had something which Colin Wilson called the fallacy of insignificance, where human beauty, heroism, and greatness was gradually disappearing from written works as well as movies. Now today, we seem full of ourselves. Younger generations consider themselves the main characters. That's a term now. However, we could make a claim, an argument that the fallacy of insignificance continued because this main character energy that exists today and overall the obsession with becoming popular on social media is not really about greatness, about meaning, about beauty. We are talking about beauty as a higher concept, we're not talking about looks maxing. It's not really about that. Today's obsession with being the main character, with gaining following, with seeming important, is not significance. I wouldn't say that we snapped out of the fallacy of insignificance. I would say we fell into the trap of thinking we are too important. Because if you look at some of the greatest minds and greatest characters throughout humanity's history, they were great, they were significant because they contributed to the world around them, but they didn't think of themselves as overly important in the context of their relation to other humans. So I would say we have this mask today in our current culture. I'm recording this in 2026. In our current culture, we have something that masks what used to be the myth of insignificance. Maslow, when he reached out to Colin Wilson, they were correspondents, they became friends. Maslow reached out to Colin Wilson because Wilson was talking about this in his book, The Stature of Man. He criticized the lack of aspiring for heroism in literature at that time. And Maslow wrote to Colin Wilson and said that he appreciated his work and said, you know what, I got sick of studying just sick people. That's what psychology is. And that is true. That's what psychology was. So today when someone takes Maslow for granted, today when someone takes for granted the fact that we are talking about human potential, well, I'm here to tell you, don't take it for granted. Because up until Maslow, almost no one in the world of psychology talked about human potential and human greatness and health. No one asked, who are the healthiest individuals that are fulfilling their potential? Let's look at them and see what we can learn from them. Psychology was a study of sick minds and sick souls, and it was an attempt to bring them back to quote-unquote normality. Well, people, once again, like Abraham Maslow, pretty soon joining him, Carl Rogers and Rollo May, said, let's look at the human potential. Although I have to put a side note here, Rollo May still to a large extent did address the lower levels of human nature. And that's why I appreciate him so much, because he did both. He did what Maslow has done, although in a different way, maybe to a lesser extent addressing the potential, but certainly addressing higher planes of human nature, but also addressing the lower sides or lower levels. In any case, we have these thinkers saying life could be more, and actually life is more. And then peak experience is our window into what life could be. You have Maslow saying peak experience is unsustainable and we cannot create it at will. Then you have Colin Wilson, who dedicated thousands of pages across multiple books written about his arguments that we could create the peak experience at will. So it's not a question that has a final answer, but we can say something where all of people who wrote about peak experience agree on. It requires focus, it requires involvement in something. So, if you are someone who wants your life to be more than what it is, because you feel like life could be more, let me tell you this. Any type of goal that you set for yourself, once you achieve it, the satisfaction lasts a couple of seconds and it disappears. Doesn't matter if it's winning Olympic gold medal, because we have thousands of testimonies of people saying, yeah, it's not that satisfying. Whether it's getting a promotion, whether it's winning over, quote unquote, that person that you want to date, no matter what the thing is, if we are talking about achievement of a goal, the satisfaction is temporary. Therefore, and before I continue, another side note. Again, history of philosophy, literature, and poetry is full of descriptions of how fleeting the satisfaction of achieving a goal is. The object of your desire will never bring you true fulfillment. So if that's the case, then when we say life could be more than what it is, and life is actually more than what it seems like, we are not talking about set the highest possible goal that you can, and then once you reach that goal, life is going to be finally that more, that what it could be. No. We are saying fill your days and weeks and your life with moments of involvement, investment, engagement, vitality, passion, meaning. And the first prerequisite is focus. Focus, because focus allows for involvement, investment, engagement of your energy, of your being. This is my challenge to you. On a weekly basis, not on a daily basis, plan out your week. I know I'm recording this and it will be uploaded on a Saturday, but hopefully people will be watching this for days and weeks and months to come, maybe even years to come. What I'm challenging you to do is, regardless of how many days you have left in the week, let's look at the next 5 days, not constricting ourselves to the week. Let's look at the next 5 days. One block of time, 2 hours, no phone. Instead of the phone, either a book or a piece of music, or going to a play or to a live music show. We're not talking about big concerts, we're talking about listening to a local band, reading, listening to music, whether in the comfort of your own home, but without distractions, or live music. Those are, let's say, 3 entries. Drawing or painting, playing with clay, engaging in some art form, or going on a long walk with a friend, both of you without phones, preferably in nature. I don't know why I'm adding this like they're separate entries. In any case, reading, listening to music in any form, writing, drawing or painting, or going on a long walk with a friend, preferably in nature. Last but not least, of course, you can go yourself on your own in nature, again without distractions. Probably you should take your phone for safety reasons, but don't use your phone. Maybe if you bring a book and then read it at the top of a hill, I mean, that would be amazing. But Of course, give yourself the freedom to do something or to make combinations out of things that I mentioned. But please, next 5 days, 2 hours, one solid block of 2 hours, and create meaning by leaping towards meaning, by being able to focus on meaning, by being able to focus on what you're reading, focusing on the music, immersing yourself in the music, immersing yourself in a conversation. A lot of my peak experiences, my initial peak experiences that formed who I am, or rather showed me who I truly am. A lot of my peak experiences were the result of going on a long walk with my friend and talking about what we have been reading and thinking about. Never underestimate what another human being can bring to you and what you can bring to them when you join together in a focused conversation without distractions and without petty gossiping, but trying to enrich each other's lives by sharing part of yourself, a part of what you're interested in, and being genuinely interested to hear them as well. Tell me which one of these you can do for 2 hours in the next 5 days. And please leap towards that meaning, because it will increase vitality, which will make you more prone to leap towards meaning, which will fill your life with energy, and it will show you that yes, all of this time, life was more than it seemed. Life isn't gray. Life isn't boring. Life is more. Thank you. Stay strong. Love life. Always love life. Never feel sorry for yourself. Light that raging fire in your heart and always go beyond. Thank you.